Today on Community Connections, we're going to go mayor to mayor. Ed Johnson of the city of Asbury Park. Mayor Johnson, thanks for coming over.
My pleasure.
You've been mayor in Asbury for just about 6 months now.
It's July 1st.
Of 2009. You enjoy the job so far?
Absolutely.
Now, one of the things that's different, you ran as part of a ticket in Asbury, but you didn't run for mayor specific.
No, and I ran with a current mayor and a current deputy mayor on our ticket, who had just served 8 years.
But it was somewhat acknowledged that you were going to, if that ticket won, you were going to be the mayor. It didn't seem like it seemed like it was a cooperative decision amongst your group.
Well, a little bit. There's a tradition in Asbury that the highest vote getter becomes the mayor. So what happens, we elect the 5 of us, and then the 5 of us sit down. So really anything could happen. Right. I even believe we could have elected someone who was not a sitting council member as mayor in the town. But
somebody who wasn't part of the
ticket.
But it has to come from the elected officials.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it does. So we had a city mayor, Kevin Sanders, who'd been mayor for 8 years. Jim Bruno, who'd been deputy mayor for 8 years. And I was just happy being Councilman Johnson. I knew I would do well. I was not overconfident, but I felt good about being reelected. And so election night had quite a few surprises.
Were you the top vote getter?
Absolutely.
By a lot?
I was over the deputy mayor, our new deputy mayor, John Lafredo, by just over 100 votes.
How does the job differ? You spent one term as a councilman, but now you're the mayor. How is the job different in Asbury? I mean, Long Branch, I run specifically for the slot as mayor, and I have a very different statutory role. That's not the case in Asbury.
Yeah. No, not at all. And in fact, as mayor, you're really one of equals. So I would say sort of chairman of the board of directors. You marry people, you sign documents, so you have those kinds of responsibilities. But really the job of mayor is much different than even I had thought it was going to be.
In what ways?
As a councilman, you just, you pick your pet projects or your interests and you follow those through. You run the meetings as mayor. You're really the face of the city and the city government. You set the tone for what's going to happen and really the direction and the energy for the way the city's going to go. So
people look to you. If they have an issue in Asbury Park, they need to talk about the engineering, the DPW, who owns what building. They're now coming to you.
Oh, absolutely.
You find that to be very different than 6 months ago?
Oh, absolutely. I end the day with 50, 60 telephone calls, anywhere up to 100 or 200 emails every couple of days. So it really is, and they range from simple questions to complex questions. And
you do things differently than me. I have a law office in town. My number's in the book. I tell people to call me at the law office if they have city business because it's the only way I can get to it. You work in Long Branch, Brookdale. You're the director of the Long Branch Brookdale Learning Center. You don't do city work on Brookdale time.
No, absolutely not. When I'm at Brookdale, I'm at Brookdale. And my duties at Brookdale really do keep me busy. So it really is it's a full-time job. I call it my morning.
It is a full-time job, period.
And as you know, being mayor is also another full-time job. Sometimes I'd say full-time and a half.
Right.
So, I really try to keep that separation in between. Also, because I owe that to Brookdale, as my employer, and also to my sanity. Having a separation between the two cities really does help in terms of trying to stay focused.
Then when do you do your city business before you go to Brookdale and then at night?
Absolutely.
So you're calling people back. What you go to City Hall and have office hours, or?
Well, I try to take a late morning Brookdale's open 10 hours a day. So that gives me a lot of flexibility. The dean's been very good in terms of, I can do what I need to do.
This would be the dean in Lincroft?
Yep. So a lot of people in Asbury Park and in Jersey are no stranger to my 3 a.m. emails or 4 o'clock emails. In fact, people always ask me if my clock is broken, and I'm like, nope. So I'll get up in the morning, try to do email first. I hit the gym at 5 a.m. So by the time I get to either Lincroft or to the Brookdale campus in Long Branch, that's about 8. And then at night, we have our meetings, committee meetings, council meetings.
Sounds like a long day.
It's very long, trying to get telephone calls back to people. And, I want to make sure that if you contact or you reach out to my office, I have an official office at City Hall. I also have my Mayor Johnson telephone number, which rings in my office at home, a website, the Mayor Johnson email address. So one way or another, I try to get back to everyone.
Now, I was a little surprised. I mean, my number's been in the book from day one, for almost 20 years. But it sounds like you probably get more phone calls about what's going on in Asbury Park than I do what's going on in Long Branch.
Well, there's a lot. Asbury's, I would say, a couple years behind Long Branch in terms of our development. So we're still going through some of the growing pains, which I'm sure that Long Branch.
I don't think they ever stop. All seriousness, yes. Even if redevelopment ends at some point in time, I think the growing, I look at a city as a living organism.
Yeah.
Between the people, the buildings, the infrastructure, the money, it's alive.
And it just keeps going.
Yeah.
One of our challenges right now is our mixed-use communities. Our central business district, we recreated, and the citizens said this is the way we would like it, recreating the mixed-use, retail on the first floor, housing residences on the second. So that can sometimes mean a restaurant, that can mean a nightclub, that can mean an entertainment zone or district. So we're really going through the challenge of redefining what it means to live in an urban environment.
How are you doing that? I mean, one of the things that, from my perspective, is different about Asbury, I mean, we spent probably the better part of 5 years planning what we wanted to do redevelopment-wise. And here, 10 years later, we're still sticking with that plan. It sounds like you're still doing planning, and you've had an unbelievable amount of growth in Asbury.
Well, we've had, there's what I call the super development planning, which you see down at the beachfront. Then you have the mom and pop development. I think Long Branch has experienced both as well.
Right.
While we've seen this economic calamity affect the super developer, the mom and pop developers are going very strong in terms of our central business district downtown. I can remember a time when there were about 2-3 stores in our Cookman Avenue area. Now it's packed. We have thousands of people down there every weekend. We're doing our Main Street development once again, which is mom and pop development. And then we have our Springwood Avenue. And you know the story of Springwood Avenue, that for 40 years that sat dormant after the riots.
From the mid to late, those riots were in the mid to late 60s.
Late 60s, 70s. Now we have a development plan, which is, it's been finalized. It's won 2 awards on the county and state level. We've seen the first project
This is the Cookman Avenue.
This is the Springwood Avenue.
Okay, the Springwood Avenue.
So we've seen the first project start. And this next later fall, spring, we're going to see 2 other projects.
What are you looking to do over there?
Well, we have the mixed-use traditional Springwood Avenue. We're trying to I guess I don't want to say recreate, but we're trying to rebuild a neighborhood in the image of history.
It used to be a very lively neighborhood over there. You had department stores, you had residential.
It was a place to be. The jazz clubs.
Absolutely was.
The hangouts. Springwood Avenue used to be a hangout for citizens, both of Asbury Park, of Monmouth County, and a jazz stop for many greats, along the East Coast.
Main Street, what do Main Street, I told you before we started, I worked on the corner of Bond and Cookman, 305 Bond Street, and I was there mostly as an employee, working for another lawyer from 1982 until I got elected mayor. Main Street was always busy. There weren't many vacancies on Main Street. Still the same. What do you see as the future of Main Street?
Well, we've just put forth and approved our Main Street redevelopment plan. Main Street and Asbury Avenue are one of our last areas that we're actually getting going in terms of a cohesive plan. For the longest time in Asbury Park, it seemed to be an anything goes. You know, this building would put up any kind of design or encroach on the
I
public
think
space.
would it be fair to say there was a point in time in Asbury where if you came in and said, I want to build something, the town was thrilled to have you?
Either that, or even if you didn't say that, you just did whatever you wanted. So now we're starting to, you know, we've bolstered our code enforcement. We've put together a plan and a vision for Main Street, and we're starting to implement that plan. But it's based on the mom and pop developer, the current property owners, of redeveloping their property.
I'll ask you a controversial question. Any use of eminent domain on Main Street?
Not at this point. I have a very different view of eminent domain than even some of my teammates have.
What's your view of it?
I have a very strict view of eminent domain, that if I believe that it's proper for a city to use eminent domain or government to use eminent domain to take property for public good, and I define that very strictly. School, roads, police, fire, those things. I have a fundamental difference with even some of my teammates about taking private property from one private property owner and giving it to another private property owner. I just feel that if you want that kind of transfer, that can take place in the private market atmosphere.
Asbury has done some of that type, though.
Absolutely. In our 2001 plan down at the beachfront relied on the use of eminent domain. That was before I arrived on council.
Would you? Let me ask you, if you know, would you have voted against it then? And then I'm going to ask you. Let me ask you this: would some of what's going on in it, you know, and there's some economic problems down there, but would you have made the progress you had without it?
Probably not, and that's been a struggle for me.
Right.
I've tried very hard not to judge 2001 with 2005 eyes. I came onto the council in January 2005 because of a resignation. Councilwoman Molina resigned. I was appointed, and I ran with this team. So I've tried very hard not to judge 2001 with 2005 eyes. I can remember in 2001 when we were searching the couch cushions to meet payroll. Right. So it wasn't as if 20 suitors came to ask us to dance. One suitor came. It really was a time when no one else was coming to Asbury. So, you know, most probably I would have joined with this council, you know, with that plan.
It's an interesting perspective because when we started and we said this is what we're going to do, everybody rallied behind us and said, right way to go. And I'm talking 94, 95, 96. Have to do it. It didn't become truly controversial until late 2003, and we'd already been using it for a while. And I can say definitively, Long Branch, we wouldn't have Pier Village, we wouldn't have Beachfront North without it. And we weren't, we're different. It's one of the things I want to ask, you know, I had Mike Booth on as a guest. Mike has a foot in both towns now. Long Branch guy, but has the coaster in Asbury Park. And he talked about Asbury and Long Branch being rivals. And I said, geez, I don't really think of it in those words. We're different cities, different people, but trying to achieve the same thing. And it's not as if we're really going after the same, necessarily the same visitor, and we're doing some things together.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I don't believe that we're rivals. I think, you know, as I said, I have my Long Branch life and I have my Asbury life. And sometimes it seems like Long Branch could be 100 miles away from Asbury Park in terms of, to me, it's a wonderful city. It's a wonderful group of people. I enjoy working there as Brookdale and being a part of the Long Branch community as the director of Brookdale. I've met some great friends and established some great relationships. And I really love Long Branch in terms of its vibe, its energy. But Asbury's a different type of place. Asbury's a urban city by the sea. Right. You know, it's almost like
well, so are we.
It's
so are we.
Yeah, it's you have that feel as well.
Yeah.
I just love the you know, you can come to Long Branch and you have different parts of the town like Asbury Park. You can go down to the beachfront, you can go uptown, you can go west end, and it's almost you're right, it's a big city.
Yeah. Well, on that note, we'll take a break.
This can't be happening.
This can't be happening.
Of course it's not happening. Armored car. Listen, having money isn't about luck. Make your own coffee, save $1,000 a year. Feed me. Feed the pig.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds.
We're back for the second half of the show with Mayor Ed Johnson of the city of Asbury Park. How did you get involved in local politics? I mean, you talked earlier about trying to maintain sanity, which is typically, you know, local politics, sanity don't mix.
Yeah, because of fireworks. I'm the reason why there's fireworks on the 4th of July.
Congratulations.
I can remember when I first...
Literal fireworks, not the proverbial type.
Yes. When my partner and I bought our house in Asbury Park, we were so proud of it. And it was a 4th of July weekend. We were going to have our big first party, invited everyone we knew down from the city. You know, we rushed the day along so we could be down at the boardwalk for fireworks. We get down there and lo and behold, no fireworks. No one knows what's going on. The police don't know what's going on.
They were supposed to be.
They were supposed to be. And hundreds of people,
What
not
year was
hundreds,
this?
but about 100 people milling around doing nothing. This was 1998.
Okay.
And so the very next Wednesday was the city council meeting. I went to the council meeting and I stood up and I asked what had happened. And one of the city council members told me that we didn't have fireworks because we thought people might want to go to a better town. And I was just incensed that here, you know, this was now my town. I owned property in it for the first time.
First time you ever bought?
Yep. I was paying taxes. And I wanted to be a proud member of this community. And how can the people of the town be proud when a city official feels that you can go to a better town on the 4th of July? So I'm not sure whether it was sort of a plan to shut me up. I was appointed to the UEZ, the Urban Enterprise Board.
If you're going to open your mouth, you have to go to work.
Absolutely.
It's a fair statement.
So I ended up on the UEZ board and ended up being chairman for 4 years. And then I sort of...
So from approximately 98 to 2002?
Yeah, just about, and I took about a year off to my retirement. And then the council approached me about filling a vacant spot.
Were you thinking when you retired you'd make a comeback, or it was, I did 4 years, I've sort of had enough?
I was sort of resting up. I had planned to run for council on my own in 2005. And then it just so happened that a council member resigned. This sitting council, which I knew two of them, two of the sitting council members.
Were you still going to council meetings, or the UEZ was it?
Yes, I was.
So you were interacting with them?
Oh, absolutely. And you know, it's nice to go sit in the back row, and you know, you can make a comment every now and again. And you're not
Miss
really,
those days.
Oh, absolutely. So I was appointed, served that term.
How long was that, the unexpired term?
I was appointed in January, and it ran through that July. The election was in May. So we ran together as a team, and then we served the last 4 years, and then just one election again, you know, this year.
You've had, Asbury has had, and you've been part of it, essentially the same group governing it now for, would it be 2 terms or even a little bit more than that?
We're now going into the 3rd term.
What does continuity mean?
It means a lot. It absolutely does. I can remember going to meetings in early 2001 with this new council, and as the UEZ chairman, sitting at a table of bankers and having the bankers very bluntly tell us that they're not going to invest a dime in this town until, first of all, we deal with corruption and we provide some stability. They wanted to see a one-cycle stability because the story of Asbury has been one of just upheaval, corruption, special interest. I mean, there was a systematic dismantling of this town. The copper roof on the casino disappeared. No one knows what happened to it. A lot of the artifacts and historical, remnants of the town all disappeared. No one knows what happened to it. Millions of dollars flowed through that town. There's no accounting for it. In fact, the council, a majority of the members on the council that served before the term before we got on, the majority of them all went to jail.
The 97 through the 2001.
For this whole...
And they were the guys who were coming in and were going to change Asbury when they ran. I remember
and it
that.
was just a matter of, it's our turn now, and we're going to put in a whole new bunch of cronies. So this council, I knew members of this council before I joined them. This council stood firm. They put their foot down. They weeded out corruption. And they put together a redevelopment plan that really put Asbury Park, on the right path.
Now people come in the same bankers, different approach.
Oh, absolutely. We had a new bank open up just this past summer. Who knew?
On Main Street?
Down on Cookman Avenue.
Which one?
The Community Bank of Asbury Park, which is Community Bank of Rumson, Fairhaven. In this economic climate, who knew? We've had brand new buildings open up. We have development, as we speak now. We have the city officials meeting with the Carter-Sackman folks about the Cookman Avenue project.
That's across the street from the Steinbeck.
The 500 block of Cookman Avenue.
Right, we're across the street from Steinbeck's. And they did the Steinbeck's building.
Yes, absolutely. So you've seen a lot of those different projects.
I can remember sitting in the office. It would have been the mid to late 80s when that building caught fire. What's there now?
There's restaurants, there's condos, it's really fantastic. They renovated the entire building. We have Rafferty's there, we have a florist, we have a gelato, all the way around the block. It's a triangle.
Gotta have good ice cream.
Oh, absolutely. It keeps it.
How'd you come to Asbury Park? You told me you grew up in South Jersey.
Well, I had a friend who was born and raised in Asbury, and her family had been here for almost 7 generations. And we went to high school together. Her grandfather lived in Asbury, so we used to cut school. And we used to go out the door with our books, pretend to, at 7:55 in the morning, pretending we were on our way to school.
But you still you cut school and you still went to college.
We would beelined it up here. Well, we beelined it up to Asbury, and one day my mother found sand in my shoes. And there's no sand at Delray High School. So a couple visits with her strap. I think that put me back on the college track.
And where'd you go to college?
Eastern New Mexico University.
Long way from New Jersey.
Absolutely. It was completely different from New Jersey.
And how long did you stay out there?
For my 4 years, bachelor's, and a year and a half for my master's.
And what's your master's in?
In political science.
How does a political science master's get you to Brookdale?
Well, my career's always been in education. It's interesting because finally, on July 1st, 2009, I was finally able to give my father an answer.
What are you going to do with a political science degree was the question.
All these years. Well, what are you going to do with that? Run for president?
Well, okay, maybe.
But I'd always, when I came back to, my dad has always lived in Washington, so I came back to
Washington, D.C.?
D.C.
Is he involved in government?
No, he's an educator. My parents were educators. So I came back to Washington and I worked with the Close-Up program, which was a political education program. So while I had an interest in politics, I always worked in education. Experiential education, international education, higher education. So really, I have a heart for education and a career background.
Was your goal always to get into education then? Was that the first job, or because you don't have a degree in education?
No, I don't. I had always
You still get one.
Well, being 23 years old, I was going to get my 24 years old, getting my master's. I was sure the president was going to send Air Force One for me on graduation day to pick me up to fly me to Washington.
Didn't happen.
But
what year was that?
This was 1985. And so
President Reagan didn't send for you.
No, absolutely not. And there's an organization called Close-Up, and it's a program that a lot of high schools do, where you go down for a week and you take a tour of Washington and meet with attend Congress and go to embassies and things like that.
So I worked for them. That's a step towards Brookdale. How'd you get here?
Oh, to Brookdale?
Yeah.
Well, I had, working through education all the way up through ending up in New York, and Newark running scholarship agency for inner city kids. And, you know, I felt like I was walking out of the front door of my community every day to make a difference in another community. And, you know, while I was very glad to do that, you know, here in Asbury and Monmouth County, we have people that have some educational needs and some challenges. So I always kept my eye on Brookdale. You know, every couple of months I would, you know, I knew some friends who went to Brookdale. I had some friends who taught at Brookdale. And every couple of months I would just go check out their site. And I was originally offered the
website or the physical site?
The website. And I was originally offered the Asbury Park Brookdale job. And this was before I was on council. You know, we couldn't come to terms on that. And at this, I'm glad it didn't work out because, you know, as we were talking about, you know, if I was mayor of Asbury Park and director of the Asbury Park Center, which is now the Neptune Center, I don't think...
what do they offer, instead of talking politics for a minute, what do they offer in Long Branch? I mean, a kid who grows up, I have a direct interest in it. Somebody who grows up, graduates from Long Branch schools can do a lot of college without leaving Broadway.
Oh, absolutely. And the price, you know, we're seeing a lot of people come back to Brookdale in this economy. You know, Brookdale has a great cadre of professors and instructors that bring a lifetime of experience with them. You're seeing, you know, for a full-time course load at Brookdale, you're looking at about $2,500.
For a semester or for a year?
For a semester.
So $5,000 a year, you can do a year of college?
Oh, absolutely. We're seeing a lot of students come back during the summer. You know, I had a student stop back this past summer to take a math class because if they stayed at Rutgers, that math class was going to cost them $3,500. At Brookdale, that exact same math class costs about $450.
Same books?
Absolutely. Same credit, same...
New business opened up in Long Branch, a bake shop. Girl working there has her degree in culinary arts from Brookdale. Her cousin went to a private university, same books, same coursework. She got a degree and she can afford it.
You know, there's a lot of opportunity at Brookdale, and you know, not everyone is cut out to go flying off to New Mexico for school. But you know, Brookdale and all of the campuses, it's close to you. You know, we have Freehold, Neptune, Long Branch, we have Hazlitt or Northern Monmouth, Sandy Hook, and of course the main campus in Lincroft.
Plus, if you do well, you have the right to go to finish up at a state school at a very affordable price.
Oh, absolutely. In our community, you can go through that program where we partner with other universities throughout the state.
We got about a minute left. Your goals in Asbury Park?
I think my main goal in Asbury Park is to keep moving forward on the right path. I think you know, Asbury's turned the corner with regard to being serious about providing good public service and services for our citizens. I want to make sure the cement hardens on that, and there's no going back. We've come a long way. There's still a lot of work to do, but I think the one thing I can say that I'm most pleased about is while we have development in the downtown, on the beachfront, and on the west side, we've renewed hope in the eyes of the people of Asbury Park. And I think that has been the most important redevelopment in Asbury Park, of hope and opportunity for our citizens.
Well, congratulations and keep up the good work, and thank you very much for coming over.
Thank you.